Hey friends, welcome to 1 Minute with Monet, a podcast where we help busy adults live life with balance and harmony 1 minute at a time. I'm your host Monet, owner of Time Managed LLC, a full-service concierge and personal assistant business in Atlanta, Georgia. Visit our website, timemanagedllc.com, for more information about our services. Every week, I'll share tips for how you can manage your lifestyle and tackle your to-do list efficiently. Before we get into our discussion, let's listen in to our quick tip for the week. Hey friends, welcome to another edition of 1 Minute with Monet. Today we're going to be talking about spring cleaning. Now I know it can feel a little bit overwhelming, but it does not have to be. I'm going to share 3 tips that can get you through your spring cleaning with ease. Tip number 1 is to make a list of what you want to accomplish. By writing it down, it keeps you organized and gives you a clear view of your priorities. You might want to tackle the closet, the garage, or even the kitchen, but whatever it is, put it on the list. Tip number 2 is to decide where you can outsource. If you have a particularly daunting task, consider hiring help. It can be a professional cleaning service, asking a friend. Having someone to outsource to can make a big difference in your workload. Tip number 3 is to set small reachable goals for yourself. Now choose a specific date and get started, and then break your task into manageable chunks. When the day comes, set a timer and dive right in. Now your focus area does not have to be done all at one time, so chunk it down, set your dates, and get it done. Now I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share what areas of your home that you plan to organize this spring season. Until next time, be well and be balanced. All right, welcome to another episode of 1 Minute with Monet. I'm so happy to have Kanika Williams with me today of Tidy by K. She is a master at personal organizing, and she's going to give us some good tips today on how we can prepare for a spring cleaning. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started with your business, and what motivates you to keep going?
So I launched Tidy by K back in 2019. Before that, I was a teacher. I did finance. I did data. I was literally all over the place with career. But I started Tidy by K after watching the show Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix. So I started it as a side hustle. And then once it kind of picked up a little bit, I went full time in the business back in 2020. So that's kind of like my short story on how I got the business up and going and have grown it to this point.
Okay. So was Marie Kondo your inspiration, or were you already in the mode of organizing and looking at, your home and how to do things better?
So I've always been organized. Even as a kid, I was the one, unloading the groceries, setting up the pantry. My closet was always color coordinated. So I've always been organized. And at the time I was looking for like a side hustle to start. So I thought about knitting, having like an Etsy shop. I knit. My grandma taught me how to knit when I was maybe 11 or 12. So I was like, well, I could do an Etsy shop. And then I was into fitness at the time, so I could be a personal trainer. But none of them were like clicking. So it was when I saw the show on Netflix with Marie Kondo, and I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know this was a thing. And so I started researching it. And then over the course of the weekend, I had come up with a business name. I was ready to file for an LLC. And so I just kind of hit the ground running. And so that's kind of how I landed with organizing, and then just kind of took it from there.
Oh, that's amazing. And very inspirational too.
Yeah.
I have a similar story with my concierge and personal assistant business. So I was in finance, working a corporate job, and there was a lot of construction and business development in the Twin Cities. I used to live in Minnesota. But when I first started working, there was a concierge at the desk in our building. So that experience, I had a great experience with that concierge. And then seeing all of the business development that was going on in the area, I said, you know what, these buildings are going to need a concierge. So that's kind of my short story to how I got started. But it's like we take these little pieces of inspiration from what we see around us, and then couple that with something that you're passionate about to then form your business. Good job. Good. I'm glad to hear that you are doing so well. Now, when we think about spring cleaning, we are nearing the season. It seems like this first quarter of the year has passed by so fast.
February didn't exist. It just flew by. We're already in March practically.
Yep, definitely flew by. So a lot of times we get into this mode of spring cleaning and wanting to have that refresh. Why do you think spring cleaning is so essential for a home?
It's when I think about spring cleaning, I'm not just thinking like disinfecting or like just cleaning the space. It's a practice that I think people should just have on a yearly basis, but it really gets your home back to baseline. You're able to reset your home, get rid of the excessive things that have kind of accumulated throughout the year or the prior year, and you're able to get that stuff out, clean it, and just kind of restart, have a more fresh home or a fresher home. And so that's why it's important. You know, it helps with productivity, helps you feel calmer at home, get back to a baseline. You have less anxiety. So like mental health and productivity, and you just feel better about your environment. And so that's why it's, you know, super important to make sure that you're doing the practice of spring cleaning.
Right. And we'll get into how we can maintain, because those benefits that you talked about, the mental health and productivity, we could use that all year round,
All
right?
year.
Not just spring.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some challenges with getting started? Sometimes it likely might be a daunting task, especially if you have a larger home or if you're not used to keeping it organized or you know, clean.
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the things that help people get over the barriers to get started?
I think some of the barriers that people face are, you know, they feel like they don't have the time, they don't have the skill set. Maybe they weren't taught how to like refresh or clean or keep their home tidy and organized, or it just feels overwhelming. Like you mentioned, you have a big house, you have a lot of stuff, and you don't really know where to start. And those tend to be like the main reasons why people don't, you know, execute the practice of spring cleaning and trying to reset and get back to baseline. It's typically those three things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for getting started, or if you are feeling overwhelmed, like what are some things that you can do to take that first step?
Yeah. So when it comes to it, like if your reasoning for not doing a spring clean is you feel like you don't have the time, I'm very no nonsense type of individual. It's more so a matter of scheduling it and making sure that you set aside a time to tackle whatever the activity is. So if your goal is, I want to spring clean, I want to get my home back to baseline or refresh it, but you're thinking you don't have the time, you just have to make the time, put in your schedule. It doesn't have to be an entire weekend. It could be increments of time throughout your day, maybe 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but just make sure that you're scheduling it and that you're getting it, you know, on your calendar of things to do. When it comes to, well, you know, I never really learned this skill, I don't know how to do it, I'm already overwhelmed just thinking about it. Find a checklist, Pinterest, Google, YouTube, find a cleaning checklist or spring cleaning checklist of all the things that you can do and should do to kind of reset your home, and just do a couple of items on the checklist. Like you don't, like I said, you don't have to do your entire house. You don't have to do it over the course of an entire weekend. But if you find a plan that feels doable to you and execute a couple of the items on that checklist or that plan over the course of a day, 2 days, a week, so on and so forth, that's going to help you get those incremental wins so that by the end of it, you have done a full spring clean of your home.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're really applying just some basic life principles to
exactly.
to this. So anytime you have a goal, you know, you don't know where to get started, you think about like, okay, what's step one? What are the 3 things that I need to get done today in order to help me get closer to my goal?
Closer to your goal.
So it's I can relate to how some of these things can feel overwhelming, but then chunking it down and really taking it in bite-sized pieces likely will help you to take that first step, but then also kind of maintain a practice so that you can get your list done. So you don't have to, I mean, I guess you have to tell me, like, you don't have to do it in a weekend, or it doesn't have to happen in a day.
And it's not realistic. If you already feel busy, if you're overwhelmed, if you already have other priorities, like a spring clean doesn't strike a lot of people as like the top of the to-do list. But if you know that it's something that you want to do, make it a practice, a habit, set a timeline so that you can stick to it, find a plan, and just execute the plan.
Right. So you mentioned Pinterest and online searching for any checklists. Do you have any other tips for staying motivated? So if I am working through a checklist or I have a plan that I have set out, what tips do you have to just sticking to the plan and not getting distracted? So maybe one weekend I'm hitting the ground running, I got my 3 things and I'm getting it done. But then maybe the next weekend it's like, well, I don't feel like we're doing it. Do you have tips for staying motivated through the process until it's done?
I would say, so growing up as a kid, I'm Jamaican. Every Saturday, Sunday, my dad would have like his big old boombox going with like the, you know, reggae music. And like you knew when you woke up, all right, today is cleaning day.
Yeah.
So you're going to get up, you're going to do whatever your chores are. But the environment, like it feels vibey, right? You got music going, you got incense going or candles. The whole family is up moving. So it's not just one person doing all of the work. You know, I'm one of 5. So everyone has their tasks, their chores that they're doing. So make it a family activity. If you have a family, if it's just you, still set the tone. And then also a timer, I think, is good, especially if you're trying to like ease your way into the process of like resetting your home. Set a timer. You don't have to do this for the entire weekend. And most times if people do set a big goal of working or tidying up for the entire weekend, you're going to burn out. And so you'll feel like maybe productive that first weekend. But like you said, the second weekend, next weekend, you're like, I don't want to do it because you remember how you felt the first round.
Right.
So if you set a timer and say, okay, I'm going to only work on this for 30 minutes, or I'm only going to do this task for 45 minutes. And then whenever you're done, just leave it. Whatever you've gotten done for that 30, 45 minutes, it's going to be great. You're going to feel good at the end of it. You're not exhausted. And so when week 2 comes, it's like, okay, I didn't feel bad last week and I only did 45 minutes. So like I can do another 45 minutes.
Right.
So don't overwhelm yourself with the amount of time that you're doing the thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's get into a little bit more of the tactical work. So when you are getting started, even if you do have a checklist, are there certain places in your home that you would recommend starting? You know, is it the kitchen? Is it a bedroom? Like, how do you decide where to begin?
It depends. I always, depending on the individual, right? So if you get overwhelmed easily with the idea of cleaning or decluttering or organizing or just resetting your home, I wouldn't recommend that you start in like a highly cluttered or messy space because it's going to feel overwhelming. And so I always recommend that people start in a small space, whether it's a small space or a category, and start with that stuff. So let's say I always recommend decluttering before you try to organize and clean anything anyways, just because you can't organize clutter and it's hard to clean around clutter. So if you can get the excessive stuff out, then it makes it easier for the other 2 parts of the process.
Okay.
So focus in a small space. So let's say you are focusing in your kitchen, but you're only doing your kitchen drawers. So you're going to focus on decluttering all the melted plastic utensils, all of the duplicates. You have 12 spatulas, but these 2 are your favorite. So can you donate some of the other ones? Like focus on small spaces within a bigger space and allow like your muscle to develop as you are trying to declutter each space. And then you just migrate to another category within the kitchen until it's done.
Yeah, that's sounds like good advice and a good approach. So I think one of the things that I have a challenge with is some things are sentimental. Some things I may have picked up because we went on a camping trip. So we did some extra things. And so slowly those things have entered into my kitchen. And so I sometimes feel attached to certain items, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's clothing or what have you. Do you have any tips for like separating yourself from the item itself and not holding on to so much? Because you can, like you said, you have 12 spatulas. Nobody needs 12 spatulas.
Right.
But how do you, in your mind, just separate yourself from the item and do what you need to do, which is your objective is to declutter and to make more space and to have more of that flow in your home?
That's one of the more challenging parts of this process for most people. It's decluttering and detaching a lot of the sentimental value to the actual object. And so there's a couple of things that I recommend for people. One, prepare yourself for the decluttering process and know that you're decluttering to create space for the things that you absolutely love and use within that space. That's the first thing. You just have to be like aware and cognizant that this is what I'm about to do. And then secondly, from there, be realistic. Not everything is going to be your favorite. Not everything is going to be like the best item that you have. So being realistic with, okay, I do have 12 spatulas. I'm going to keep 4 and I'm going to let the rest go because realistically, I can't fit all 12 nicely. And these are like my absolute faves. And I want to be able to access these ones. These ones, they're just here. And then also just kind of being, I think you can help yourself out by setting parameters before you start the process. So if it's broken, if it is tattered, if I never liked it, if they don't fit well, if so-and-so gave this to me and every time I see it, I get an attitude. Like set parameters for the process before you start. So then it could be more objective of just checking a box. Is it broken? Oh, yeah, it's broken. Throw that away.
So it's not even a second thought, like you said. Yeah.
And so I like to do it like a rapid fire. So when I'm working with clients, we set the parameters and they set the parameters. I help them, but they're like agreeing and setting what is going to work and make the most sense for them, their stuff, their space. And so then I can just come in as backup. Like, oh, remember you said it, had a hole in it, so you could just trash it or, donate it based off of the condition, whatever. And so I'm just like the extra voice. But if you set a parameter, then it helps you to just be more objective and say yes, no, yes, no.
And then for those sentimental items that you might want to keep, so let's say you have children and there might be a few outfits that you that you really love, or artwork even. How do you recommend that people set parameters around, how much of the sentimental items that you can keep? So my youngest is 16, so I'm sure I should not keep 16 years worth of artwork from him.
Yeah.
But should I have a bin that is just for like his stuff, and once this bin is full, like that?
You already got it. Whatever you decide to keep, it has to be something that you absolutely love, something that you use, or you're going to need it. So it needs to fit in those 3 buckets.
Okay.
So if it's sentimental, it's something that you absolutely love. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to be on display. It doesn't need to be something that you need frequent access to or easy access to, but it should have a designated space and home. So if you have artwork, put it in a bin that you can, label, categorize throughout his career in school, and everything has a folder, like this is his kindergarten stuff. This is his first grade stuff. This is his 12th grade stuff. Keep it contained in one space. But then once that space is full, it's full. So meaning you have to either look through it and see if there's anything that you can reconsider, or that new thing does not fit, it does not stay. But what happens is when people are not this objective, then you start to see everything is sentimental, 1, and 2, the sentimental things start to overflow and impede on the quality of life within the space because it's crowded.
Yeah.
So you have to be objective. Everything can't be sentimental. And if it is sentimental, it has to have a home and it has to fit within the home.
What about clothing? So this can be very, very touchy for some people. And even in my business with, as a personal assistant and concierge, I have clients who don't want to donate anything. Or I've even watched an episode of Oprah from way back when, and she said when she brings something new into her closet, she'll take things out. So if you buy 3 dresses, then 3 dresses need to come out. So she's always maintaining the space for all of her items, and there's no overflow.
Good. Yeah.
But that can be hard because your weight fluctuates. You might really love something, or you might have bought something that still has a tag on it, that you have aspirations to wear this beautiful dress or this item, and it just hasn't happened yet. And maybe 3 to 5 years have passed by. What do you recommend for kind of getting rid of some of those clothes, or having a system in place where you're being thoughtful about what you're keeping, and then also being thoughtful about when it's time to let some things go?
I think you're saying the words, and it's more so being cognizant of the intention. So you're saying thoughtful, and that is a part of this process. Like, you have to consider what you have space for, what you're actively going to use, what you absolutely love, and if you need these particular things. Now, when it comes to clothes, we have way more clothes than we actually need most times. It's more so, does it fit? Do I love it? Is it accessible within the space? Like, you have to be thoughtful and intentional about that. When it comes to I might be able to fit it, after I lose these 10 pounds or whatever the case may be. How long have you been saying it? If it's been pre-COVID, it's all right, friend. It's been 5 years. So are we going to fit in this? Is it something that you can replace? If the price tag isn't, too crazy, can you replace it for when you can fit in it? Or can we just get a bigger size and let this one go? What are we doing? Especially when you are recognizing that space is limited and it's hard to function within the closet or within the space where your clothes are. So thoughtful, intention, and being realistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are there any mistakes that people make when you're thinking about spring cleaning that we should avoid when either planning or actually executing?
Yeah. So when I think of spring cleaning, I think of it as a 3-part process. You have your decluttering, you have your organizing, and then you have your cleaning. So one of the biggest mistakes is just focusing on the organizing and the cleaning and not doing the decluttering. It's honestly the most important part of the process, because you have to focus on getting your home back to baseline. And a lot of times throughout the years, I'm working in clients' homes and we could be in their space for 5 days, which is a lot of work. And every day of the project, they're getting Amazon deliveries. So it's like we have to focus on like what truly needs to be in the space.
Yeah.
Like, do we need this? Is it something that you're going to get great use out of for, some, certain amount of time, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So a big mistake is not focusing on the decluttering first. And then another mistake is trying to go at it over the course of a weekend, right? Especially if you're not accustomed to following a process of spring cleaning. If you say, oh, I'm just going to do everything, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, my home is going to be baseline, you're going to burn yourself out, and it'll be another 4 years before you do another spring clean because the first one was brutal. So those would be like the two biggest mistakes, trying to do too much at too soon or too fast, and then just skipping the decluttering process entirely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the issues that I have sometimes is decluttering, but then I get to the last few bit of items and I don't have a home for them, or I'm either overwhelmed or just tired.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with this. So those last like 10 items just get thrown back in the corner. So do you have a recommendation for like how to see it all through? Because I'm sure if I sat for an additional 10 to 15 minutes, I could either say this needs to go to be either thrown away, donated, or we need to find a home. And if it doesn't have a home, then perhaps we need to throw it away or give it away. But it just seems like every time it does not matter what it is. Every time I have issues getting through those last few items.
Just the last few things.
Mm-hmm.
Save it for another day, another session. Like I said, I strongly encourage people to do this for 30-45 minutes a day. Like 45 minutes might even be a stretch. 30 minutes, put on a podcast, put on some music, and just do whatever the task is for 30 minutes, because the next day you have energy to do 30 minutes. Even if it's not 30 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, but you can spare 20 minutes, 30 minutes throughout your day each day to figure out, okay, this was the bin from yesterday. What should I do with this bin? And then once you finish with that bin, you're done. So I think set yourself up for success and don't try to do too much. But if you feel like you get burned out, just put it down, tackle it tomorrow.
I like that. And then you mentioned 30 to 45 minutes a day. So we know that our conversation today is about spring cleaning. But then when it's all done and we've achieved our 3 steps, how do we maintain it? What are those things that we need to put into our daily routine, our weekly routine, to make sure that we're maintaining our homes the way that we had them after the spring cleaning is done?
Yeah, so many things. One is more so about habits. So setting aside time each day to do like a morning routine and an evening routine. So like my morning routine can look something like, putting a load of clothes in the washer, unloading the dishwasher from the night prior, and just wiping down counters, putting your bathroom stuff up so that your counters don't look chaotic from you getting ready for the day, making your bed, things like that. So just doing 10, 15 minutes worth of that type of stuff at the start of the day, and at the end of the day, resetting the kitchen, my mom used to call it like a bar, like we're shutting down the bar. Like everything is back where it's supposed to go, so that the top of the morning, everything's clean and you can go into the bar and you have a clean space, right? So resetting at the end of the day, putting the clothes that you put in the washer in the dryer or folding them, whatever the case, setting up a structure where you're able to do like these morning and night or evening routines on a daily basis. And they don't have to be extensive. Again, 30 minutes and call it a day. And then giving yourself like a checklist to follow, like a day-to-day checklist, a weekly checklist, a monthly checklist, so that you're just kind of staying on track of the things that you need to do to maintain your home throughout the year.
Yeah, that sounds doable.
It's very doable.
Yeah. There's nothing like walking into a kitchen in the morning and it's clean. And
it's clean.
Your kitchen sink is
right.
sparkling.
You don't have to clean out the blender to make your smoothie. Like coffee is ready to go. It's great.
Yep, I look forward to to maintaining all those things. Now, can you share a success story from your career that highlights the power of organizing, or what has been your biggest transformation?
For me being organized?
Either you or a client, if you can share.
Yeah, well, I can speak for me. Because I'm organized, I feel productive. Like, I'm able to maximize my time like down to the minute. And it's funny because I'll be talking to someone and they're like, well, don't you have a call at 3? And it'll be like 2:57. And I'm like, yeah, I got a couple of minutes. I'm going to blah, 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 do something. And they always make note, like, you literally maximize every minute of your day. And I think it's because I'm so structured and organized that it allows me to be like that, what's the word? I can be that structured with every minute. And I think it's because I've set, like, I use my calendar daily. Like, I check my calendar, I update my calendar. If it's in my mind, not on my calendar, I probably won't do it, or I forgot about it. So I'm utilizing my calendar every day. I'm resetting my spaces. So when I finish, working at the dining room table, I reset the dining room table before I move somewhere else. Like, these are just things that I think if you can focus on doing them, they compound over the course of, just your day-to-day routine. And you realize, like, oh, there's not much for me to do at night because I was resetting throughout the day. All of these things just kind of add up and just, promote a more efficient and like productive lifestyle, I think. And so that's what's been super helpful for me.
Right. So you're not only organized with your physical space, it sounds like you're very organized in every aspect of your life. And that they all work together to live a life of productivity, maximizing your time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where do you find your inspiration? Is there any person or thing that you find inspiration from to keep going and to help other people?
Honestly, I think, especially as I have matured and like developed more in my spiritual journey, it's more so a matter of like doing what I know I'm called to do. And so with that, you have to try your best to be productive and, just utilize your time properly because it's all given to us. So we have to figure out how to maximize it and do the right thing with our time. Right. And so I think that's really like one of my biggest motivations to stay on track.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Please tell the audience where we can find you.
Yeah.
So if our own cleaning and organizing, this decluttering is too much for us, we can call you and you can come help us in the space.
If you need help decluttering, organizing any space in your home, you can find us at tidybyk.com, which is my website, and our handles for all of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, they're all Tidy by K.
Well, thanks again for being here. I hope that everyone got a little bit of inspiration and motivation to get started with spring cleaning. Remember, you don't have to get it all done in one day. We're going to take it in bite-sized pieces. So make sure you check in with us and let us know how your spring cleaning is going. All right, until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me this week. Let's continue the conversation on social media at 1 Minute with Monet on all channels. Also, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Until next time, be well and be balanced.